Welcome back to another amazing episode here on the culture of currency. Today, as the thumbnail suggests, we'll be diving into the silver lobster of Anguilla as we place it on our 60-point scale. This is another coin from the EC8 series and makes me think that when I have all EC8 countries represented via silver coins, I should probably rank them. Anyway, please remember to like and subscribe so you can continue to journey with us around the world as we highlight some awesome silver. Before we get to the ranking, however, let's dive into Anguilla and this lobster so that we can better understand the cultural significance of this coin. Anguilla, just like many Caribbean islands, is in the Lesser Antilles. It is overseen by the British Crown, lying east of Puerto Rico and north of St. Thomas, and is about half the size of Washington, D.C. The capital of Anguilla is called the Valley, which sounds really cool as if it's from a fantasy novel, so props for an awesome name. Population exceeds 18,000 based on our most recent census data. The name Anguilla is Italian for eel and is thought to have been named such for the shape of the island. Some think it was named by Columbus, but I personally disagree due to Anguilla being an Italian word and Columbus mostly would have named things by his common or paid tongue of Portuguese or Spanish. In all my other videos over Caribbean coins, I go over the Arawak people who were the indigenous people of this island, so if you want more history on them, please check out the other videos. This is once again a common story for these islands. The Arawaks lived on the island doing Arawak things from 1300 BC until about 1493 to 1546. Why the big window of time? Well, because historians are not sure if Columbus was the first to sight the island or the French Huguenot Laudonnière. What we do know is that the Dutch West India Company settled a fort in 1633, which was the Baroque period in European history. It is crazy to think that nobles would have sat and listened to Bach play the organ in churches in Germany on the same day that explorers settled this island. When it comes to colonization, it is widely understood that the English settlers from St. Kitts made up the first foreign population trying their hand at tobacco and cotton. Of course, this being before the emancipation of slaves in English territories, it is thought that during this time it is likely that slaves were mixed in the population, mostly from Senegal. In time, sugarcane became the cash crop of the island, mostly worked by slaves purchased from a slave depot on the island of Nevis. Over the coming generations, the population of African descendants outnumbered other demographics and is still the overwhelming majority today. When England legislated that slavery was illegal in all of their territories in the 1800s, many freed slaves and other demographics tried to improve the island and become economically strong. I'm not going to go into the historic back and forth of the population changes due to periods of economic stagnation or fighting, but will tell you a note that I thought was interesting. The American Great Depression was felt far and wide, leading to many fleeing Anguilla as there were big import and export problems. Throughout this time, St. Kitts and Nevis ran Anguilla until unrest finally got to the point where British troops had to be sent to negotiate a treaty in the Anguilla Act of 1971, where the Anguillans separated from St. Kitts and Nevis to become their own British Crown colony. Since then, Anguilla has finally made a name for itself as a tourist destination as well as a location for many financial sectors. I can tell you from the research that I have done, if you are a food-motivated person who loves nature and relaxation, this is definitely a place to check out. The amount of bays, beaches, quality eats, and slow-paced living is enough to make me want to retire out there. Of all of the islands I've researched, this may be the best when I think of just relaxing and recharging. Now that you understand the island a little, let's get into this coin and place it on a 60-point scale. We need to start, as we always do, at the front of the coin. This is part of the EC8 series and holds the traditional and somewhat boring obverse that we have come to know and tolerate. It scores a consistent 6 out of 10. The back is where everything comes to life. We have so many cool elements upon this minimalist design. The coin is a perfect example of how sometimes less is more. I absolutely love that the texture is just as important as the lines. We have a beautiful rippled background with the text that is unique and carried within the antenna of the lobster. The lobster has an awesome look to its exoskeleton with unique bumps laid into the silver. I love the overall look of this coin, but have one issue that will be laid out in full when we get to the cultural significance. I score it a 7 out of 10. Mintage is our next category. This comes from the EC8 series and therefore has an amazing mintage number of 25,000 coins, which is my sweet spot. This is an awesome mintage number and always scores an 8 out of 10. Now for cultural significance. Lobster used to be used for a giant export of Anguilla, but has fallen in the modernization of the country, as we see when the highest percentage of exports now being alcohol. Anguilla is still considered by many the cuisine capital of the Caribbean, and lobster is still a giant staple of the Caribbean life, as well as other seafoods like conch, fish, mollusks like clams and mussels, and octopus. The problem with what I see on this coin is that the represented lobster is not one that's found in the Caribbean, which is a big no-no for me. Take a look at the size of the pincers. The common lobster found in the Caribbean is the spiny lobster, which looks like this. Notice its pincers are nowhere near that size. This lobster is harvested for its tail more than its claws. I've looked and looked for a species that is on this coin that has much bigger claws that lives in the Caribbean, much like the ones that live over on the northern Atlantic coast, and I cannot seem to find any. The tail looks similar to the untrained eye and is less identifiable if you are not familiar with what lobsters here look like. So it is my guess that in an effort to make this lobster look identifiable, they went with an image that is more recognizable. I love the image, but find that it lacks the proper species to carry a high ranking in cultural significance, which is kind of a shame. So it gets a 5 from me, unless one of you can find that I am wrong, in which case I will score it an 8. Now we come to collectability. This is a coin that falls within a series that changes every single year. It also holds a unique theme and a consistent, tasteful product. It is not something people get in line over, but it has its place among collectors, so it gets a 7 from me. Now for uniqueness. When it comes to shellfish getting real estate on silver coins, it is somewhat of a rarity. I've seen lobsters on coinage before, but not often. What is more irritating is that many standard currency coins have spiny lobsters, which we find in the Caribbean, like this silver coin from Barbuda, which really means that Anguilla should consider the local species rather than an iconic one that is non-domestic. I give uniqueness an 8. This brings our total to a rather disappointing 41 out of 60. In closing, I really do love the layout and design of this coin, but wish that the artist would have chosen a local species to highlight. This is a coin that should be in anyone's collection who loves wildlife, nautical coins, or the EC8 series. Thank you for stopping by, and please remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.